This is the Original Copy Podcast. Welcome back. What's going on?
Not much. It's been a fun past couple weeks, I guess, just getting over a bunch of illnesses and stuff, but just in the real world. Got a bunch of stuff that's hopefully going to start happening in the government, a bunch of documents that are supposed to be getting released. I know today was the big day that the Epstein stuff was going to come out, but over the past 30-something hours, we've figured out that a lot of stuff is being hidden and people are trying to destroy some stuff, and a lot of the government's just acting like normal. The deep state is just actually showing its face to the public, and it's kind
Like
of...
always.
But it's kind of weird, too, because you're seeing it. Normally, you don't get people reporting on, the New York... I think it's the New York field office for the FBI hiding stuff. Like, you never hear that reported. So then all of a sudden you just hear, oh, like they're actually like hiding stuff, and now they're DOJ and
How is that just news and nobody's doing anything about that?
Yeah. But it makes you wonder, like, what is there? Because if it was just names, like if the files itself was just, these are the like people that are, trying to do human trafficking or whatever. Like
Right.
if it's just a list of names, they would just release it. So it's like it has to be some sort of CIA operation involved with I think with Mossad or something super deep that somebody's in the deep state is like, we can't release this, or they're afraid to.
I think it's like basically the fact that the entire thing was an intelligence operation. Pretty much, and so the CIA probably just signed off on it at some point.
Yeah,
That's the only thing I could think of.
And also, you have to think Hillary Clinton is still alive, Bill Clinton is still alive, so the implications that this could also have on people like them. I started thinking about they might be trying to bury stuff with her, because if it comes out that she's involved, she almost won presidency.
Yeah, that's
so it's
crazy.
like it could ruin the Democratic Party. If you think about it, if it comes out and saying, oh, she was the one who was, funding this and giving him money, whatever it is, or she's the reason that he could have died, because people, eventually will try to figure out the different strings that go from people to whatever. So it's like, if she's the one who's complicit in this, that could ruin the Democratic Party, because it's like you had her run against Trump, which means that could have been cancerous for the United States, and then Biden gets it. It's going to make them look terrible. So I think that's why, is because she's implicit in a lot of it, and they're probably just trying to destroy and hide a bunch of stuff, which, I think someone's going to be the patsy.
Somebody has to be.
There's going to be somebody in the FBI who tries to burn everything, and then they're going to find him, put him in prison, but all the information is going to disappear. In the sense of her being implicated.
Right.
I think some stuff's going to come out, but I don't think we're ever going to get the full thing.
We never will. Even the stuff they're releasing right now, it's not the full anything. And it's supposed to be the Epstein the book, right?
Yeah.
And it's just what we're getting. The phone book instead is kind of ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's not even it's not even any sort of client list at all. There's no proof of transactions or anything. It's are they going to I forget what it is, but subpoena that so they can, go into the phone records of all those people in the phone book and dig for stuff? Or is it just hey, look at these names. That's crazy. That was his phone book.
Yeah.
Because that's what it seems like.
Apparently what's going on is Pam Bondi has gone to Kash Patel at FBI and is saying, hey, do something about this. So apparently something's about to happen within tomorrow, the next couple of days, but it's also super early in the administration, so I'm not too worried.
We gotta have a little faith and let it play out.
There has to. It's disturbing, because it's the more time that goes by, the more opportunity people can get rid of information, but at the same time, this is also moving really quick, and it's give it a couple months. If stuff isn't out in a couple months, then I would start to worry, be okay, you guys aren't going to tell us anything, you're just hiding stuff. But I would assume in the next month or so, they're going to be releasing a lot more. But I am discouraged, because you have people that are on the House of Representatives that are hey, we're trying to do our job and release this to the public. Why aren't you guys getting us? Because he should be able, how come Kash isn't able to just log in, get the information, and then just send it? Why isn't he able to walk in the building of New York and say, here's the files, I have them, walk out. Like, it can't be that complicated.
It's getting filtered.
Yeah, and it's disturbing. Like, that's what for me is like,
it's so obvious, but they never admit to what's going on.
Yeah.
But then clearly, people know what's going on if what New York Times is posting about it.
yeah. I mean, yeah, it was also interesting. There was a document that they gave out in the binders. If y'all don't know, if you go on X, formerly known as Twitter, there's a bunch of these binders that were handed out, and some columnists have talking about what's in it. It was basically stage 1 of declassification of Epstein, but there was a part, I think a page of it, that was like redacted, and somebody said the actual document, unredacted, has been on the internet for years.
Interesting.
And then they just put the redacted version in there. And it's like, why even bother doing that if everybody already knows what's on that page?
I feel like that's sort of like even the JFK thing.
Yeah.
I've known all of that
Yeah.
for like years and years and years. And the fact that, I know it's new information to some people, but it was all out there the entire time.
Yeah.
So them admitting to things in small part just to check it off the list is, I don't know, it's slightly irritating, It's like, I want to see Epstein's, I guess, the bigger one, just because where does that go,
Yeah.
It's like we want to see the bottom of that. Like, if Epstein's really dead, somebody else is still, I know, and Ghislaine Maxwell, her trial, whatever happened with that? I remember it started, and then just didn't hear anything about it.
Yeah, I don't know. Okay, so I had this thought. So what if this whole thing that's happening right now with Epstein files is just like a cat and mouse game where Trump is trying to see who is calling the shots? Because obviously the information's being told to be hidden. So what if he's like, okay, if we say we're going to release all this, we know we're going to have pushback. So we go identify the source of whoever is not releasing it, because it has to be a physical person at the FBI who's refusing to do their job. So it's like, okay, we're going to go find that person, and then we're going to trace their contact to whoever's telling them. And then it's like, what if they're trying to work backwards without telling anybody outright? Like, oh, we're doing an investigation. Like, you could do an investigation and just say, oh, we're getting screwed over right now, blah, blah, blah. But then you're actually like trying to work back. Because then if you can prove that, if you can work back and be like, oh, it's this person who's calling the shots, then you blow the whole thing wide open.
It's super smart.
It is. But then you also have these, I forgot who it was. I can look it up real quick. But there was like a husband and wife and their dog who all died in their house on like the same day.
Yeah.
It was like a couple days ago.
All natural causes.
Yeah, but it's like, I think they could have been like implicit in something, but it's like you're going to start seeing that more often of people just dying.
I mean, people know how to connect dots nowadays like no other,
Oh yeah. So let me see. I'm going to look it up real quick. So it's, who is that? Actor Gene Hackman and his wife Betsy Arakawa found dead in their New Mexico home, and then their dog also. But it's just like interesting. So it's like that type of stuff. Even if that's in the same ballpark, like I think a lot of that stuff's gonna start happening. There's gonna be like, oh, an FBI agent committed suicide, or a CIA operative committed suicide, or I think a judge. Like, I think judges are gonna start like popping off right now, like just, oh, that guy died or whatever. But
the tough thing is there's so many psyops going on that like you never know what's being covered up, and like when we get told things like that, what percentage of the truth is that? Is that the truth?
Yeah,
like there's too many layers for anybody to really know what's going on.
Yeah, and it's also interesting too because the big push was JFK before Trump got elected. Like the big push was everyone wanted that released,
right?
And then the focus got turned to Epstein like super quick. Like I think
just because of the promise, like.
Well, no. I agree with Cash's promise because he basically said day one we're going to release everything. But it's interesting that no one's pushing for JFK in the sense of like, because Cash talked about it on a podcast. He was like, everything you guys want to know has already been out there. But he's like, the intricacy is like what's going to get released eventually.
Like the truth of the matter is that what JFK was concerned about in the government was stuff like covering up the Epstein list and things like that. So it's like that's really the more demanding matter right now.
No, I know, but it's like hopefully these aren't going to be played off each other to like we're going to use this to distract from like releasing this.
There's always a perfect distraction.
Yeah. I mean, UFOs. That's the go-to right there.
I just remember that the Johnny Depp trial with Amber Heard. Like, man, that was great. And then the slap and like all that type of stuff. There's always a good distraction.
It's also funny because they're actors.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're putting.
When does it stop?
Yeah, like you're putting these people in front of a stage to distract, and their main job is to act. Like, I understand there's a human aspect to it. Like, maybe it's true, but at the same time, you have to remember, like, if the government says, "Hey, we want you to distract," all they have to do is just act it out. Like, neither one of them went to jail. It was a civil trial, but the whole point is like get people talking and distract about that, so we don't have to. We can bury something.
But then look at Reagan being an actor before he was president. Look at Trump, right? Exactly. Another perfect example. Look at Arnold Schwarzenegger. Look at not in our country, but Zelensky. There's a lot of, and those are just the ones that we know about, right? How many people are like a layer deeper of an actor, like a crisis actor, but they're just a politician, and that's their role, and they're just playing that role, and they really sell it. Like, they sell you on their values, but they don't believe any of that stuff.
Yeah. And it's also interesting too, the what's that giant group of guys that wear like the tan hats and they have their faces covered? They like do they do like they're supposed to be like a white.
They're like the feds though, right?
Yeah, everyone thinks that they're feds. Like, those are also, to me, I'm like, okay, that could be like crisis actors that somebody's just saying, hey, go out there. Like, if it's not feds, it could just be a bunch of hired people that are, because how do you organize that many people at once? Like, I started doing the math. I'm like, if I have a group of 60 friends, people have jobs, like, especially if they're right-wing people and conservative people or whatever, those people would have jobs. Like, how are you able to get everybody to go in? So it's like the thought is like everybody's either a paid actor or a fed. Like,
yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
There's no way you can just get 70 people to be like, oh, let's all take this day off. Like, anyway, it's interesting, but
yeah, well, and the fact their salaries are set up, to not equate to what they're doing. Like, they really don't get paid that well.
Yeah.
But all of their money's, outside funded, insider traded.
Yeah. So this was also something interesting I was thinking about. Imagine if money has been hidden, like during Obama and Biden, but in order to have people paid actors to go protest. But what if them cutting all the aid, like the USAID and all these like DOJ stuff? Imagine if they cut all these budgets and like now we're not going to have protests because you can't pay these people and you can't organize these people to go show up.
Yeah. Yeah, they always do that, and before the feds were doing that, supposed feds, Antifa, it was like you never knew if anybody was really Antifa or not. It's just like, oh, you just put on I'll wear black, and then you're Antifa, throw a brick. Yeah. It's like anybody can be that, but like, who is this shadow organization that it all goes back to? People always talk about like the deep state, like that's one entity, but
yeah, it's not even. It's also about the government doesn't have to necessarily go and pay. They could just say, hey, we're going to turn a blind eye. So it could be like in the department of the FBI, let's say it was Soros, right? And he's the one paying for the bricks to be thrown or whatever, or one of his
that probably happened too.
Yeah, one of his subsidiaries is the one who's controlling like the planned like protests. All they have to do is notify the FBI, and the FBI says, okay, we're going to turn away. Like, that's all it takes, right? It doesn't take like the government having to give money also. So it'll be interesting to see how many of these things stop happening over the next 4 years. Like, because the money, if they're cutting all the funding for a bunch of stuff, I bet you there's going to be a lot of things that just stop happening just because of that. So that'll be interesting.
Imagine like playing chess, but instead of just being able to move all the pieces where they're supposed to go, the pieces are like making side agreements on what they're going to do. Like, that's pretty much what's going on,
Yeah, 100%. But it's interesting to see the deepness of how deep the deep state is. I know that's a deep like 17 times there, but just the fact that you have a brand new administration, a brand new FBI director, a brand new CIA director, a brand new attorney general, and they're all like super on board for Trump. Like nobody's talked bad about him, and then deep state is still happening.
Mm-hmm.
Deep state stuff is still happening. So for me, it's like they have to get to the bottom of this quickly, or else these people are going to be hidden. And that's why I think they're doing a cat and mouse thing and trying to bait people out to see who's providing them, like who's giving them instruction.
They almost have to, all that talk of like clearing out the swamp and all that type of stuff. It's like, some people think that's already done and like that was a thing, but now he's in the White House again after all of that, and you don't know who's trying to get in there right through the door with you.
Yeah,
talking sweet into his ear. There's so much change going on right now. You throw a new idea out there with some, with a secret part you don't tell him, and have other plans on the side. I mean, it's fairly easy.
Yeah.
And people are worried about Elon doing that type of stuff. Like, oh, he shouldn't have his hand in any of this stuff. But like, I couldn't think of anybody more practical and like transparent with everything.
Yeah, I think he's also just a nerd, and he just wants to be the one to say, "Oh, I solved the problem."
It was easy.
Yeah, like
that's the part. Yeah,
yeah. Like I think he's taken on the challenge just because he's like, "Oh, I want to prove that I fixed the American system." Like I don't think he is trying to get ahead or use his business in any way.
Well, I think he knows that it will get him ahead, and
eventually,
that's part of it.
Yeah, it's the long game.
Yeah, but I think he's a provider of service. Like that's what he wants to do. He's not about. He probably could have focused on one thing and been a lot farther in like SpaceX, for example. But how many different endeavors he has right now that are all successful and all have influence, and then all those things, it just shows like the potential that he has. That's why we're listening to him. That's why the government's listening to him.
Yeah,
the man has a great track record of all this stuff. It's almost like he, instead of committing to one thing, which is what anybody would have done with some simple success, especially if it was a brilliant idea, he said, I'm going to play the long game, and he structured himself up to be that type of person.
Yeah.
And that's why, like, Mr. Beast, emulates him so hard, and, like, because it's a power move. You really, I don't know what the word is. I mean, it's like adjacent to I can't even say it. Philanthropist.
Jeez.
But like, I don't know, just putting yourself on such a big podium, like on a world scale where everybody knows you're powerful. Like Bill Gates. Do you remember being in like middle school and like kids would just say stuff about Bill Gates because everybody knows?
Yeah.
Like that's real power. And he knows that, but he handles it pretty well, I think.
Yeah. It'd be an interesting psyop if Elon hired Mr. Beast when Mr. Beast like wasn't existent, and then knew that he was going to gain popularity, showed him how to get to where he was now. And then what if Mr. Beast gets so big that he like buys YouTube and then just gives it to Elon?
Oh, if Mr. Beast bought YouTube is crazy.
Because think about it. If Mr. Beast stops, that's a lot of views, quote unquote, that go away. Like if he was like, screw YouTube, I'm done, I feel like their stock would crash too, because he has like a whole, like, over, was it 3?
I mean, he's got so much, but I feel like, they're making money off
everybody
else. Too.
I'm just saying, like, he has the ability to crash them and be like, hey, YouTube's being crazy behind backstage or
whatever. I
don't know,
like, because I feel like he's sort of hit a pivot where his YouTube career has almost come to an end, and he's pivoting, and now he has a show on Amazon Prime exclusive thing, and like he's doing all the the Feastables, and he's branching out to other things. He's been doing it for a while, but I feel like I don't know, it's past the time where like young kids are like gravitating towards it. If you already know about Mr. Beast, because everybody does, you might see a video, watch it, blah blah blah, but I don't think new people are gravitating towards it. So I think he is probably pivoting into a different role. Like I think he's transitioning out of this YouTuber thing that's sort of a kiddie persona into a businessman, entrepreneur, numbers type of figure like Elon was in the beginning of his.
Yeah, he's also probably getting burned out because he's been doing this since, I think it was 2017 or 2018 when he really like started getting traction.
Mm-hmm.
So if you think about it, that's 9 years. So he's probably getting burnt out of go, and like he doesn't have the original staff he used to have. Like, so it's like
he's probably been through so many people.
Yeah, and a lot of the people who still watch him are the people who were around when Chris was there, Jake was there, like everybody. So it's like if he kind of gets rid of all those people and it's just him, he might lose a lot of that older audience that's stuck with him. So like you said, he might be transitioning because he knows that's going to be happening.
Well, you also saw him, like at one point, when he first blew up, and this is a lot of Mr. Beast talk, but when he first blew up, he kept it real kid-friendly, rated G, 100%, no cussing, he doesn't do anything bad. He wouldn't give off any hint of that persona. And then there was sort of this era where he's gambling now, he cusses sometimes, he does this. And then, I don't know, I feel like he's transitioned again a little bit, but
yeah, I think
that's my 2 cents.
He's probably transitioning with his age group or the audience. Because again, I think a lot of his audience is the people who have stuck around following him. Like
look at PewDiePie.
Yeah.
Like I don't even think he does YouTube anymore.
He does, but it's like low key because he moved to Japan.
Right.
And they had a kid or whatever. So now he's just doing whatever. But it's also weird to think about that he was like the biggest.
Yeah.
And now he's not even relevant anymore.
Or like, man, if just a random, I don't know, if you just said Ray William Johnson in a room full of people, most people would not know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
But at one time, he was the biggest, and he was making the biggest checks, and that's when YouTube was paying, which is crazy.
Yeah, people. It's also, Casey Neistat. For those who don't know, he was made vlogging like super big on YouTube, and he was the one who did a lot of the cinematic, cuts and whatever. And he was one of the big reasons a lot of bigger YouTube started doing vlogging, but he didn't even monetize his videos at the beginning, I think. And then he like eventually started monetizing them, but he like lost a lot of money. So it's like a lot of people back then made, I think because of something they were able to make so much more money than they are able to now.
Yeah.
Like if Mr. Beast had what he had now back then, he'd be like a billionaire like over and over again.
Right. Like because those numbers, it's crazy to think. I guess the numbers were not as high back in the day, but you got more per view.
Yeah.
But like now, I don't know, everything gets 1 million views. Everything is super popular, but you just don't get paid. You make like, if you have $1 million or 1 million view video, I think you probably make $2,000.
You know what I think YouTube's going to start doing? And I think it's going to be really smart. I think they're going to start paying salaries, and they're not going to pay per video. So
it's like a contract thing.
Yeah. So I think like Twitch does it. So what I think is going to happen is you're going to get YouTubers who are up and coming, right? And they're going to say, hey, we're going to pay you $100,000 a year, right? So it's going to be big to somebody who has like 100,000 subscribers. They're going to be like, oh my gosh, that's so much money. And I think that then YouTube is going to boost the algorithm towards them. And these people are going to get millions of views. And then they're going to realize, oh my gosh, if I didn't take this contract, or basically they're going to be like, oh, if your channel's worth, $20 million a year, but we're actually only going to pay you $100,000. I feel like that's going to start happening.
Oh yeah. Well, it's almost like it's just like a label situation. Like, they're sort of pimping you, but you're agreed to it.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of fair on their part if they are literally feeding that thing and they are responsible for the views that it gained.
Yeah. It's also interesting to see how the space has transformed kind of into a, like, you have NFL, NBA contracts, people get traded. It's almost like that's happening with like Twitch and Kick and YouTube, that people are like going back and forth, or who's going to pay me more to be on this team. Like,
which
it's weird.
I like in the sense of, free agency and like being able to really kind of state your claim on, whichever platform you want to jump to and why that's the new thing. And it's like and they're pulling people over. They do it all the time,
Yeah.
I don't know how sustainable Kick is at the moment. it was doing good at first, but I have no idea now.
Yeah, I think X is going to come in.
I'm waiting.
And offer insane contracts to people. So you don't watch golf, I'm guessing?
Not really.
Okay, so do you know what the PGA Tour is, though? You've heard of that? Okay. So the PGA Tour was the only thing. Well, there was the DPS Tour, which is like the European Tour, but super small compared to PGA Tour. So the Saudi company came in and created another tour called Live Golf, and they basically like are now equal with PGA.
Really?
So it's like one of each of these.
That's how little I know about golf. That's crazy.
So then they basically came out, like, so for instance, there's a golfer his name's Bryson DeChambeau. I used to play with him in high school. We went to like pretty close high schools together. And then he ended up doing really good on the PGA. He was like top 10 in the world. And then he got a contract from Live Golf when they started Live Golf. And it was like, it could have been like 150 million or something, but he just rejected another offer to extend his contract with Live Golf for like 280 million. So I think Twitter or X is going to do something very similar to that, where they're going to come in and get all these top streamers and just say, here's a bag, like 4 times what YouTube or Twitch or Kick is paying you. And then they're just going to steal all the content creators over to X.
But here's the thing. If, like you were saying, if YouTube did that, where they're going to select all these people, they're going to go with all the people that are already going. They're easy breezy. If X did that, it would be all new people that come out of the platform. And it's like, because the people that are already in the game and, you know, they have like a trade value essentially established, they're not as easily bought and sold on this new thing and committed to it and believe in it. You know, it's just another team for them. But yeah, I think if they're smart, they'd get organic, just X profiles that are already good, or who knows what. But
I could also see Elon, if he didn't want to go into buying streamers or whatever, I could see him easily trying to get his hand in every single like esports team and like buying a team and creating a new team.
Oh, he needs to create an esports team,
because then he could easily switch esports over to his like platform.
That's it. And that's the ticket.
Yeah, and it's like if you have your team, then you can stream your team playing on your platform, and then everyone's like, "Oh, I'm fans of this team," because it's always in your feed. And then he has one for every single esports org. And he has so much money over all the esports orgs that are like currently investing in. Like he could just like dominate the whole industry if he wanted.
Imagine he has like, you know, like venues to do all that stuff in, and creates his own, like he could create his own esports league if he wanted to. You know, he could really do whatever he wants, but it's like, what's worth it? What do people want? What's profitable? There's like a balance to it all. And right now he's dealing with the government, so who knows? But they did. There were some talks about he needs to save video games, and he was talking about it. So
yeah, I mean, I think he's stepping small first and trying to get the live streaming thing, and then I mean, personally, I think after live streaming, he's going to buy streamers, because you have to get people invested into like using X to watch people stream. So I think he's going to buy probably 10, 20 people. And then once that starts growing, I think he's going to incentivize people growing their channels, kind of like we're trying to do. I think he's going to try to incentivize people to go on to X and grow their channels there. That way he can create like a rival to YouTube immediately. And then he'll start doing more stuff after that.
We should start posting our episodes on X.
Yeah, I mean, I think it'd be great, because that to me is where the future is. The future is
me too.
Is like, okay, he's clearly trying to make X a monetary platform. He's trying to obviously do live streaming. He's already live streaming sporting events. Like at some point, there's going to be crypto gambling, and at some point there has to be like people streaming. So it's like, I think that's the next area, and especially if you already have like Starlink and everything is going to be super anti-buffer, like it's all going to be super clean and crisp and super user friendly. Like I think that's the area that you have to go to is posting everything on X, or just using that system, especially for live streaming.
I think Meta is the only person that wants to challenge that at this point.
I think they're so far behind.
They are, but they want to challenge it.
No, yeah.
Because they think if they don't, this is their last opportunity, basically.
Yeah, and then I think if Elon does do kind of what I was just talking about, I could see a bunch of these platforms like YouTube, Google, Meta, whatever, all like merging into like fight them.
Yeah, and I bet you Bill Gates would be the one to buy it or something like that.
Yeah.
Who knows? one of those three would end up with all of it probably, which is scary.
Yeah. Or they all work for one person and someone already has all of it.
Yeah, that's true too. Who knows?
Yeah. But it's interesting to see technology and the opportunities that there are for growth, especially us being so small and kind of getting to see how interactive something like X is. But to think about 10 years ago with where YouTube was. There wasn't YouTube Shorts. There wasn't really a whole lot of live streaming. And now see where it is. It's like the same thing's going to be for X. Is like, think about 10 years down the road, what there's going to be. So I think it'll be a lot of people are going to start opening their eyes. And like, I think monetary too, if people can get in, even us, if we can get in early on that streaming thing and like having content on there.
We can stream right now on X. Yeah. I just don't know if it's monetized yet.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, monetization is going to be the next thing to come. And like, that could catapult too, because it's super big already on reposting, quote tweeting, liking. It's already so user friendly on that aspect that I think it's going to make it even more so. Like, all you have to go is on Twitter, and then someone says, "Oh, I'm live streaming." Oh, boom! I click on it, I'm in. Instead of having to open the Twitch app, go find the game, go find somebody you want to watch stream. Like, I think it's like whoever you want, AI based, or whoever you want to watch, or the AI knows what you like to watch. It's already going to put in your feed like, oh, do you want to watch this person stream or whatever?
It's probably going to expand a little bit too, because right now we use our phone as the peripheral. But what if it was like, whatever we have, right? Whether it's some sort of embedded Neuralink type thing, or this AR, VR glasses, or whatever it is. But taking all that stuff, if it could really, because that's what Twitter is, or X is an algorithm at its heart, and that algorithm is what's feeding an AI right now. It's like all these things are merging together to create a super, just quick, responsive, intuitive, everything, right? Like a source, it'll just feed you with everything at some point. And so if you had all these things, it knows what you want and it pulls these things up in places that you need. And, certain things will follow you around, and it knows what kind of news you want to come to you and not. And it's like, in a VR space or AR space, or I don't know.
VR is virtual reality. AR is augmented reality for people that
Absolutely.
don't know. Something else that'd be interesting is a ranking. Okay, so let's say a way to get people famous or blowing up on something like X. So YouTube, TikTok, they have the shorter videos kind of trying to captivate people and keep them doom scrolling or whatnot. What if X did something to try to boost people's like popularity, and they had, you could participate if you're a regular user, but let's call it the shorts game or whatever. Let's just put a random title that makes no sense.
Okay.
And basically you log into this platform on Twitch, or this like little area on Twitch, on X, and you basically start, like, it says, okay, there's 200 videos right here, and they're all shorts type format, right? And so it says, okay, go through and rank all of these on like, I like this, I don't like this. And then at the end, it'll say, this is your top pick and this is your bottom pick. And then it does the same thing with millions of people all using the platform. And then eventually all those get ranked. And then you can go on the ranked board and see who has like the best short of the day or something like that. And then it becomes like a competition to see who like has the best short.
I get what you're saying. It's like a leaderboard, right?
Yeah, it's like trying to get people to blow up and be like, oh, because like if you're like, oh, I'm super into comedy, right? I want to be funny and I want to grow my platform. All I have to do is do one funny bit, and then that circulates, and maybe I get the top 20, because then everybody who didn't want to participate, they just go watch the top 10 best ones of the day or top 20 best of the day.
Yeah.
And then that boosts that person's credibility and rating, and then they can get famous or blow up.
I feel like I don't like it because people will, it's just like they're going to try to get clout and get famous, and, they're not going to, like, the realness, the facts, their heart is not going to be in it. It's all gone out the window. It's like, that's already a problem everywhere else. And X is sort of like, not that it's fully there yet, but it's like the one place that's like, okay, this is real. Like that's the idea of it,
But I think people would see through that. Like, I think people would see the person who's just trying to do it for clout or just trying to be fake, and they just would downvote it. Kind of like Reddit.
But it's like, They will, but like over time, over a long period, it's a slow decline that you just don't realize so much until like that's what we've done with all these other platforms. Like Facebook used to be like some real stuff on there. Like people really, and then it got like, who knows what, like then it was all like super familyed out. And then now it's super like, who knows what garbage is on there.
Yeah.
It's like, happens to them all.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. Not trying to change the subject a lot, but I started thinking about something funny with Doge. If they started, Elon was talking, I think it was today or yesterday when he was at the cabinet meeting. So I think it was yesterday. But he was talking about like the technology of the United States government is super far behind and lacking. And it's not super up to date. What if they like, whenever they introduce new technology, like because it's government workers ultimately, what if they installed like efficiency counters on their like personal computer or whatever, and they got to actually see like efficiency, and then they could like broadcast like, oh, the government's not as efficient today as such and such or whatever.
That would be crazy. It'd be like, John McAfee had all those laptops given out, and he does the McAfee security, so he was basically just spying on everybody's stuff, and that's how we got like the Hillary emails and stuff like that, right? What if, like, how easy would that be for Elon to do the exact same thing, and then it would be great to turn around and just show us, but imagine if you didn't show us and you just kept track of all that. Like,
yeah,
that's a power move too.
Yeah, but I think they would do it in the sense of like, it's going to scare people to start working harder, because if they could immediately see your efficiency and your productivity, they could just say, hey, like, you're not doing good. But then that turns into like robots doing work. And that's exactly where they want to go to, is like, I think he's already talked about it, that they can get rid of like 1 million jobs that robots can do. Like if robots are the ones pushing papers or whatever, like the robots could just be automated to do that. So
I think they just need people. Like, the efficiency thing comes down to, like, right now, monitor everything that's going on. But when you fire these people that you're going to fire, just hiring the right people and the right type of people. Because some people need to be told all the things and they have to follow all the rules and do all this stuff. Some people just understand what it is, how things work, like, just person to person. That's the type of government worker we need, because it's like, it's for the people. They bicker with each other in legal terms all day over one minute thing that affects us majorly. So
yeah. Do you think there's going to be, or who do you think, let's go into like some firearms stuff real quick.
Okay.
So what company do you think is going to be the first one to release sort of like a direct energy weapon, but like personal defense, more Halo-esque?
We're going to see it on the military side before we see it on civilian side. Absolutely. But I would guess probably somebody like Whirlpool or like GE.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know. Just a wild guess. It's going to be like, it's not going to be like Lockheed Martin or somebody we expect. It's going to be somebody weird, because it's like future territory where somebody just has the ability to do that stuff. And I don't know what sort of licenses you need for those types of weapons or the development of them. But I don't know. Just Whirlpool stands out in my mind as like, sometimes it's just weird companies that do that stuff. They still do odd things.
And then I wonder what happens to like all the current manufacturers. Like, do they just become obsolete? Do they go away? Because you have a lot of big names like Smith & Wesson, Walther, Ruger. Like, do those just go away? Or do they implement that technology eventually?
I don't know. I think people are always going to want like traditional firearms, like guns, just because, at a certain point, there's something nostalgic about it after they become the main weaponry. But I don't know. There's just something, even if there were direct energy weapons, it doesn't make guns not effective. It's an entirely different thing. It's like saying, just because guns are invented, are people not going to want swords or knives? Like, they still want them, but it's for a different purpose. I think, like, I wouldn't want to defend my home with an energy weapon. Yeah, that's not good for that. Might go through some walls. I don't know what that would do.
Yeah, it's like Iron Man stuff.
Yeah, but if I could have one, I would love one. Like, how far do you think those things could really shoot? Like, what do you think the range on a laser beam, a supersonic laser beam?
A couple miles, probably.
Yeah,
because at the end of the day, like, if we're talking about waves and it going through like a wall, like they have to ricochet, like they have to keep going. Like it's not like a bullet that like the energy stops. It's like it has to, unless something's like contained.
Oh my God. So have you seen, slightly off topic, but slightly related at the same time, have you seen the, what is it called? It's like a quantum physics thing. It's the dual slit experiment. Have you ever seen that? So basically it is, all right, sorry for the quantum physics lesson, but on a really small scale, that's what quantum physics is, just tiny things. Like things don't work how they work bigger, but basically particles on the small scale, if you send them through like a wall that has one slit in it, you'll just get the pattern of that one slit, right? But if there's two slits, and when it's being observed, you'll get two slits out of there. But when it's not being observed, it's like you get this crazy dispersion pattern, right? Basically, what I'm saying is there's a focus beam of particles being shot through these slits, and depending on the way it's being observed there, it turns into a burst. So you could have like an energy shotgun, essentially.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. That's kind of cool. I don't know. But
yeah, that'd be like disturbing. Like you're just ripping people apart at that point.
I mean, that's insane.
Yeah. I mean, it definitely would be a deterrent.
Yeah. Do you think Robo-Cops are going to be a thing pretty soon?
100%. Because when did this happen? It was a couple of years ago, I think. Oh man, I thought it was somewhere in New York, but okay, imagine this. Imagine you have a robot SWAT team, and you have a guy inside who's like, basically, hey, we're gonna arrest you, and he like starts shooting at the robots, right? If that robot then shoots back and kills him, right? Who are you gonna blame? Because you can't put a robot in jail, because the whole point right now, like you saw with George Floyd, right?
That's
like
a good point.
They put the guy in jail because they're like, oh well, we're gonna hold you responsible. But if the robots are not controlled by a human, then you can get away with anything, because then you could just say, oh well, that was a bad robot or whatever, and then you literally can. I think it's the step, because you can't sue a robot. You can't. And you could sue the people who create the robot,
the police department and the state and the federal government.
But at the end of the day, you can't prove that the robot wasn't doing its job or that the robot malfunctioned or whatever. Like at the end of the day, I think that's where it goes to, because then it takes people off the street, like cops, like good cops, people that are actually trying to serve their community or whatnot. You could look at it with firefighters too, but like especially like police officers in general, or like let's say TSA. Like let's get super like small. Like let's say TSA is all robots. It becomes super easy. Like, oh, this guy has drugs. We detected it. Boom, put him in cuffs. Walk him away. There is no arguing. There is no human aspect or element to that. And it's like if you broaden that to like the general public, you'll have these robots doing operations and stings 24/7.
Okay. Yes, you will. The efficiency is through the roof. But the issue is that they might be a little too efficient and a little too black and white, or yes and no, like just two options. And so what happens when there's a situation like that video that was going viral the other day on X of that female police officer unholstering that guy's gun at a traffic stop and shooting him in the leg, right?
Yeah.
What if a Robo-Cop has to do a traffic stop and has to unholster your gun or deal with that, right? Like, what happens then if, something went wrong, right? Like, that's something, like, you can't have a robot do something like that, especially because you can't program them. I mean, maybe the technology's getting there, but...
Yeah. But you could also have a Robo-Cop be the sidekick to the actual cop, right?
Yeah.
So that way, let's say there's a shootout, right? And the cop is there with his robot sidekick, and
that's a cool
movie. Guy, right? And the guy pulls out like a gun to shoot the cop. The Robo-Cop could just be like, bang, right? And then be like, that guy was going to shoot this human, that cop, right? And so then you have the ability for that cop to give commands to that robot.
So then that cop is responsible for that robot, just like he'd be responsible for his gun.
Yeah, but in the sense of that cop can also have a gun, but then he is less likely to use it because he has a well-trained robot that can like
It's like
apprehend.
having a dog too, you know,
Yeah.
canines.
But then also,
concept.
I mean, the biggest area that it would be super useful is like hostage situation, bomb threat, like something where you don't care about losing a robot over a human life.
Oh yeah, dude. Imagine, why don't we have that actually for like, you know, they're talking about like school shootings or just any mass event, or yeah, you're saying bomb defusal. Like,
Yeah.
those are great roles for a robot.
Because imagine a school shooting, right? Imagine every classroom has a robot and it's just deactivated and it's just standing there.
It's like
right?
Fallout.
Right. And then they detect like a gun coming into the building that's not like somebody who's like a threat. Like a threat's detected, and then all the robots like close the doors and then they all go in the hallway. And now they're just on patrol for that person, right? Like that situation is like then de-escalated. And then you can start thinking about airplanes. You like put one on an airplane.
Yeah.
So there's no more hijacking.
Yeah, that'd be good too, I guess.
Yeah.
What if, okay, you know how there's X-ray, right? And X-ray can see through things. If a robot had X-ray, they could see things. Now, hear me out. X-ray is invasive. It's radiation. It causes cancer. You legally can't just do that to people without their permission. However, what if there's another wavelength that's similar to X-ray that they don't tell us about, that's been patented a long time ago, technology that they have, and they have access to that type of stuff? And a robot, you know, I don't know.
Yeah. There's a Family Guy episode. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but it's like Superman. It's like a cutaway scene in Family Guy, but there's like Superman, and you're like, you know, Clark Kent is under, like it's his alter ego or whatever. But there's like 3 girls that are like all in the same office as him, and they're like, we all got breast cancer at the same time. And he's like, that's crazy. But I thought that was like,
It's a good one.
It's interesting that you were starting to talk about that, because I was like, you're gonna fry people if you just start using X-rays on everybody. But like that would be interesting. But I think the robot, because they use it in the military, like especially for bomb deactivation and whatnot, especially for like IEDs. But I think in general, the general public, especially if there's a high-speed chase, pit maneuvers, like suppressing somebody. I mean, because at the end of the day, the cops can stay in their car, the robots get out, and if the robots are being shot at, they don't have to shoot back at that person. They can just go tackle them.
I'll be honest, I don't like all the control. It's like, I don't need all this stuff because I'm not going to go on a high-speed chase or any of that. Yeah. But at the same time, if you had, you know, that road idea that I've been talking about with the tiles and all of that, right? So you replace the roads with new LED solar panel tiles that can change and, you know, change the traffic and display new messages, all these things. You can also just, while you're updating that, throw in some like gates that come up in the road. Like if somebody, you know, just trap them in a box. Yeah. Where are you going to go?
100%. Or you just have like robot Teslas that just are the ones that go and block the road. Like, you know how like if a cop goes and starts swerving in front of everybody to try to slow traffic down, if you have just robot cars that are doing that, and then they end up just pinning in the guy or whoever it is, the criminal, and they can't get away. But I think at the end of the day, like there's a lot of this going on, and a lot of like defense contractors and like weapons contractors that are all looking into these types of things. But I think the hardest part is like the robots and getting that to be like fine-tuned, because, you know, that could end up damaging something like quickly if that malfunctions.
Something inevitably will go wrong at some point, but we'll learn from those mistakes. But unfortunately, somebody will probably die. I just assume that's how those mistakes go.
But the good area for robots would be prisons.
That's I guess because the corruption would be eliminated.
Corruption's eliminated, and then you don't have to worry about riots in prisons, and then you don't have to worry about like cops in there with no guns or cops getting beaten up or threatened or whatever. All you do is just put robots in there, and then
I feel like they're gonna learn how to like hack the robots somehow.
Well, you just make them like stainless steel and like they can't do anything.
No, but like, I don't know. Somehow I feel like a jail or a robot in jail or in prison really would somehow, like, they'd find a way to utilize it somehow they're not supposed to, right? Whether like find a flaw in its programming to where if you do this, this is the result it gets. They don't know about this. This is an exploit. We can use this to now you know, whatever they want to do, right?
Yeah.
Like if let's say their sensors weren't super great and there was a way to like, I don't know. I guess that it's gonna go nowhere with this hypothetical, but yeah, it would be crazy to see that, and I feel like it would make prison much more lonely.
Oh, 100%.
Because it's just cold.
Yeah, that's true. But yeah, I mean, it's interesting to think of like just the idea of robots, but
Yeah,
I think that's the only way to go because I don't think the Iron Man suit's going to be a thing. It's too dangerous.
I think it'll be a thing.
But like if it like could like break your arm, like if you're like moving your arm and something malfunctions and just like rips your limb off.
Yeah, but like at a certain point, if you're doing like anything athletic, you're moving your arm to a point where you could break. You know, sometimes it's like, yeah, if you don't train well, stretch, or do the right technique or whatever it is, there's a chance to get hurt. But there's like already exoskeleton suits that have sensors to detect, like, you know, when you start moving your arm, it like assists you in what you're doing.
Yeah.
If you get a Neuralink implant, we're only one step away from the second that you think it.
Yeah,
it's moving your arm with you while you're moving it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. It's totally possible. And imagine, like, I remember that scene. I think it was that Superman movie. Maybe it was Man of Steel. I think it was, where he's like learning to get his powers and he's like jumping at first before he can fly. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Like people would really be jumping like that and doing all sorts of stuff, scaling buildings. But really, that warfare is going to be crazy with exoskeletons.
Yeah, but then at that point, like, are people actually fighting? It's just like drones and stuff. Like,
even if it's not warfare, like let's say they do, like they bring the Coliseum back or something, right? We've got the Thunderdome, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And like it's just blood sport. I would be much more into, like, even if it's real tame, it's not like, you know, swords and stuff like that. But what if it was like MMA with exoskeletons and armor, but you know, like
that'd be crazy. That'd be insane.
Yeah, no, that's almost too brutal for people to really be in. It would have to be like robots, like
real steel.
Yeah, real steel.
Yeah, I could see that being the next entertainment thing because they already have a very small version of it with like they have the robots fighting.
cars.
Yeah, like, and if you got actually like humanoids fighting each other, and then you could, dude, I'm telling you, like that would be insane.
Oh, and imagine, right, like, if they really program them to have like antics and personality, like they could be really entertaining.
Oh yeah, I mean, especially too if you take the human air out of it, like if they're not controlled by a human and they're just solely on their own, like you don't have to worry about somebody throwing a game or somebody ducking punches. It's just like straight up robot versus robot. Like that'd be interesting.
Until the betting gets put on it, and then, you know, inevitably somehow it gets rigged.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Always does.
Yeah. Which is interesting too, because you could use, I mean, just the idea of robots, but just for sporting events.
Well, they just did the URFC.
The ultimate
robot fighting
championship.
Yeah. Like that'd be cool.
Yeah. But I think robots are not necessarily robots, but technology is going to start being introduced to every aspect of our life. Like, I mean, we already have self-checkout, right? At a lot of the places, like they're going to start getting rid of servers at restaurants and just have a robot bring it to your table, which means tipping is going to go away. You know,
you think these robots are going to ask for some tips. I think they will.
There's no way. I think you're going to have to pay a service fee.
What if like, okay, here's the thing though, because they're all robots. They all talk to each other in their little code. And what if you don't tip a robot well and then they remember you, and next time, no matter what server you have, you get a level down of service. You've been downgraded.
But I don't know if a robot could like necessarily downgrade service, because they'd have to understand what downgrading is to us. Like we know it because downgrading comes with emotions, comes with like how you talk, timeliness. Like I don't know if a robot's gonna do that, because I feel like they're
just like in a simple way. Let's say it's not even personality based or any of that. It's literally just something that comes and brings you your food. What if it's like your priority for delivery has just been lowered? Like they're gonna get everybody's table before you. Little things like that, right? Make you pay for the VIP. I don't know what it is, but
that'd be interesting.
I feel like somehow they'll find a way to make you tip a robot at some point.
Yeah.
But yeah, it seems like all that technology, like my whole childhood, they've been saying, "Oh, you're gonna have a flying car," like that's what it was when I was a little kid, at least. And we still don't have that stuff, but it's like it seemed like all of it was almost a lie because they promised like back in like the 70s and the 80s, the vision of the year 2000 was like this futuristic thing, like 2001, A Space Odyssey, and we never got any of that stuff, and it seemed like, okay, by 2010, it's kind of a lie, like it's a sham. We're not getting that stuff. I think we're just not being patient enough. Like it's all gonna hit. Like in these next 5 years, we're gonna have it all.
I could see that, but at the same time, like you have to have world unity around like basically you have to pull funding and money and have full focus on doing these things in order to get them done. And I feel like it's still not like that in the world, but who knows? I mean, I think Trump's about to give, they're going to take regulations off of Russia, like trade regulations.
Yeah,
so
that's good.
Who knows? There could be a lot of stuff. And people that are saying that's bad, for me, it's like, if you look past the war, right? If you look past, like, that's opening up trade. And if we can have somebody to sell our oil to, and we can do all this, like ultimately it's going to be better for the United States. And also that wasn't our war. Like it had nothing to do with us. And it's like, you don't see people talking about North Korea and them starving people every single day. Like no one's talking about that. Like, and China, what they're doing to people over there.
Yeah.
Like,
we still do plenty of commerce with China. Nobody complains.
Yeah. Like,
so what's the big deal?
So for me, that's why I don't see it as like people, and it's just a political talking point. But for me, I'm like, I don't care. Like, I understand if you don't want them to be like to start a war, you like impose restrictions. But if you end the war and then you reinstitute like normal trade, like I don't think it's a bad thing. Especially if China is our biggest like nemesis, getting Russia on our trade and like trusting them in like oil and stuff, I feel like that would really help like us. And then did you hear about the whole like citizenship thing that Trump's wanting to do?
About what?
Oh, so there's like I think it was an executive order, but they're trying to do it. I'm not sure if Congress has to actually pass it, but they want to do a gold card. It's like a green card, but it's called a gold card, and you can pay $5 million to get permanent residency. So not citizenship, but kind of like a green card. So like that way he wants to bring money in.
Yeah, interesting.
So basically, companies would be able to buy these gold cards,
right,
and then bring somebody in. And I think it's in the sense of if it's not tied to that one person. So like, let's say that they bring in, they buy this gold card and they use it per person. It's not like overall, it's like per person. And so they bring somebody in that they hired for their company that is foreign, right? And that person then is granted permanent residency status because they're linked to that gold card. But then they fire them, they can get rid of that person, bring somebody else new on that gold card.
But
right?
It's going to cost them another $5 million.
Correct.
I would assume.
I believe so. But the whole point is Trump's trying to use that $5 million per like citizenship thing to build or to kill like the national debt.
It's an awesome idea.
I think it's a great idea.
But my one worry is that, you set it up in a perfect example. These companies are going to be purchasing these. And really, it's the companies that like own that person. Like that person is the company. I forget what it was. Some random reference. Somebody tell me in the comments or something. But there was like somebody that their name was Subway. They were Subway. They are the entity known as Subway, and they represent. I think this is a real thing. There was somebody. This is a real like the company was getting sued, but so they had somebody that legally represented Subway to sort of take the fall somehow.
Interesting,
right? But I think these companies will utilize these people to establish control that they couldn't have before, and then eventually, because right now our country is one big corporation, and they make so much money off of all these stupid things. We're now cutting all of that, income that they had. And the things that they're doing are moving in a different direction. So that void might be filled by these corporations taking hold in our country. And before you know it, if we're not careful, they can really have some serious power. Because in a certain way, because America's free, and the more free, we open it up to be, like it's good for us. We have freedoms and we have potential to, the American dream, become anything, right? Anybody can have power, but it comes from money at the same time. And so when they have the same ability and influence, but they're guaranteed to get it, and then they have the loudest voice, they have the most control, at a certain point, I don't know. I just wonder how much control they could really get from that aspect.
I don't know if necessarily companies would get control.
Like a different type of control, not governmental, but societal control, where people, like what the government is right now ceases to exist. The government becomes something new that's better overall, but people like are looking for what the government used to be, and those corporations will come feed that to people, and they're allowed to because you're allowed to.
Yeah, but I don't think, I mean, I don't know. I don't know, like, if corporations are going to use that or be, I mean, there's going to be a lot of restrictions like with it that they won't be able to like use for control. Like, it's not like you can stack up citizenships or stack up gold cards. I feel like it's just like you use it, you lose it, and there's another one.
Well, yeah, for sure. But like how many, like if it's literally just like how many people could they pay to get a gold card, go over there, set them up in different places, doing different things. And it's like a long-term 10-year plan where they're building, different things up. And then now those people are making enough money doing whatever they're doing from U.S. money to even buy these gold cards for people. It's sort of like, just imagine nobody was verified on X except for you. How much pull would you have compared to everybody else? And so if they can just kind of pay people or just buy that for as many people as they want, and it's like, it's not a guaranteed thing that all these people will be able to get to a point and make it, through their plan. But I don't know, if they were set up correctly and had all the help in the world, a lot of them probably could.
Yeah. I started thinking too that with these gold cards, what they're going to do is you're going to have companies coming in and like they're going to get big streamers, right? Or big influence, like somebody who's of influence. And then they're going to say, hey, here's a gold card. And now you're like on our team, like you're our sponsor. Like, especially if somebody's like a professional athlete and like a lot of the players are here on visas.
Right. Yeah.
So it's like you're going to have these teams come in and say, hey, we're going to buy gold status.
That's a for sure thing
for all of our players. And then that way they're going to fall in line. Like the players aren't going to do anything stupid because they know they have permanent residency. Like as long as you're part of this team. Anyway, so that'll be interesting too, to see like how the corporations use them. But I'm interested to see how many people are just going to become dual citizens of the United States just based on their sovereign wealth alone. Like how many people, because
probably a lot of Saudis,
but like not even like think about $5 million. What if you have countries that are paying? Because again, the United States has to, like, it's not just if you pay $5 million, we let you in. Like they vet these people. But like, what if like that would suck if it wasn't vetted? But imagine if you have countries that are like putting like spies and just like sending a spy, somebody who's like total, you like they're bottom shelf, you don't know about them, they have no record or whatever. That will be the interesting thing. It's
almost certainly gonna happen. Like there's no way that doesn't happen.
Yeah,
but that's an expensive spy.
Yeah.
They could probably do it for free as well, and they already do.
Yeah.
I would assume.
Yeah, but I mean, it'll be interesting to see if it actually works. I mean, I genuinely think it'll be cool though if somebody like who's a streamer from England, right, and they're like, I want to be a permanent resident. I don't want to be living in England anymore, paying their taxes or whatever. And all they have to do is just pay $5 million to get out of it. And now they have permanent residency forever.
Yeah. So imagine like that happening in all of the different countries where like their best people are like, I want to be in America. And now we basically just steal them.
Yeah. But I don't think you can vote if you're a permanent resident because you're not a citizen.
No.
So it's not like they're going to be doing this to get people in.
But I mean, they can pretty much do everything.
It's everything because they can own a gun. They can do everything.
Right.
But I think it'll be interesting to see how many people, if this falls into place and actually happens, how many people will jump at it and be like, oh, sweet, I have technically a dual citizenship, basically.
Yeah. I'm sure a lot of people would, but yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting idea.
Yeah. You have like, what if Putin's like,
oh,
I want a gold card.
Really?
Imagine.
That would be crazy.
Imagine. Trump would do it just for like the headlines. It'd be like,
I mean, like, yeah, honestly, what's the big deal with that? Because it's not like, you know, like if Putin were to come to America right now, like Trump would welcome him and they could have a meeting and do all this stuff and
he's
be
supposed
real
to be coming
diplomatic.
soon,
So,
yeah.
you know, I mean, what's the big deal? It's not like he's not going to be protected with all this stuff, you know, when he's here and move around how he wants to anyway, to a degree.
Yeah.
So,
but the other thing is like the people who would be coming in with the gold card, they don't have, like, they're not going to have the voting privileges. They can't run for office. They won't be able to do any of that. And you're basically monitored because you're not a full citizen.
You think they're going to flex on each other? Like, no, I'm a rich immigrant. Like, you have a green card, I have a gold card.
They could be. Yeah. I mean, it would make sense. But
it's going to happen.
Yeah. But I think the cool thing, though, is the stories of people who are like in Brazil or somewhere and they streaming worked out for them, right? Or like entertainment worked out. And then now they're able to like go get permanent residency and like get out of like their country. Cause it's almost like the United States is offering the American dream to those who are outside. And it's like, hey, if you work really hard and you get $5 million,
right,
you can come in. And it's like, that's going to inspire people to work really hard outside to come in.
Well, and also it seems like everything is becoming so digital that a lot of, your opportunity to make $5 million is through the internet and through putting yourself out there digitally. Yeah. I think you'll see a lot of, whether it's Brazil or just other countries that don't maybe have opportunities. And normally they would go, I can't really do all the, like streaming is maybe not a super viable thing for them. They're going to try anyway to put their voice out there, and you're going to hear a lot more from them. We'll get interested in some little pockets of things, and people will have a real opportunity through content and all this stuff to change their life, not just monetarily, because they're going to earn that $5 million or whatever it is. But, it's a whole different ballgame to have access to America like that when you have that, when you're making that type of money, especially. But it'd be really cool to see. Because we like people from other countries. We love people. We just can't have everybody. It's like we do need to, maybe have people that should be here or want to be here, or like there's got to be more decisive action, I guess. But I think that'd be cool.
Definitely.
And I'm excited actually to see how that goes. Slightly unrelated though, the ATF director temporarily is Kash Patel.
Yep, he is running both,
which is kind of interesting because to me, it seems like, well, why assign somebody temporarily? Probably because it's going to dissolve, right?
So I was thinking the same thing. Either they are going to try to dissolve it, but I'm not sure if you have to have a vote in Congress in order to get rid of something like that. But the same thing with like the Department of Education. I mean, they've been open about like, we want to get rid of the Department of Education, but you still have to put somebody in charge of it. So it's like, I think he's putting he's going to start putting people like giving dual roles and stuff like that.
Smart.
Just so that way, because I mean, you also could just say, okay, the ATF is like, fine, like we can have the ATF, but we're just going to cut all the staff. So there's no staff. Like the department's still there, but there's just nobody there working. So they can't go out and do stuff. So it's like he also could try to do something like that where they cut all the jobs in that area. So that way, like the ATF is still functioning, but on bare bones, and they don't have any agents running around looking for, like that could be something.
What's interesting is that I could be wrong, but I believe the ATF actually started out of the FBI and then became its own little bureau or whatever.
I think because it was created for the mafia, right? Like,
like prohibition and stuff.
Yeah, so I think that's why it was created.
But I think it was like the FBI basically made a task force for prohibition, and then that became the ATF.
Which is, to me, is like, I think the correct word is antiquated, but like tobacco is not what it used to be. Like people don't smoke like they used to, right?
Right.
I feel like alcohol, it's like, people drink, but it's not what it used to be.
No.
And then guns, like for me, it's like there isn't machine guns everywhere. Like the whole point of the machine gun ban was because of the mafia. They were using the Tommy guns and stuff. So
absolutely.
it's like that's not happening anymore. You don't see.
Well,
Well, I mean, compared to what it was.
I don't know.
No, I'm saying like
I'll be honest. Like
people aren't robbing banks with giant guns. Like that's what I'm
they're
saying.
not robbing banks. I guess like they're just killing each other.
Correct.
That's what's happening.
I'm
now.
saying like nobody's going and trying to hold up a hotel with like machine guns. No one's going to a bank because everything's like online. So it's like you don't see the level of crime that was associated with the like cartels are kind of like the biggest thing we have right now. That's like the equivalent of like the mafia, I would say. Like, but that's like outside the United States. Obviously, there's gangs and stuff, but I'm saying like the ATF.
But they were already killing each other before they had automatics.
Yeah, but like the ATF is kind of outdated now. Like it's not really like it doesn't need to be there, in my opinion.
And that's what some dummies would say about the Second Amendment and all this type of stuff because they want to interpret it, based off some stuff that's not in there. And it never is. And it says shall not be infringed. It's very clear.
That means it can't be changed. It's not going nowhere.
Yeah, I just think it's funny that people even argue it, but it's ridiculous how much structure is up right now. It's like it's all going to come down because it has to. Like the Constitution says you can have it all. Like you can't restrict any of that. And the people, and even really the felony thing needs to be addressed at some point too. Like what is a felony? And because essentially it removes part of your citizenship is what it does. But how can they do that?
Yeah. I mean,
I understand the punishment, but
that's one thing
don't take my rights.
There's an argument there for if somebody commits a felony and they go to prison and they serve their sentence, they shouldn't be
right. Absolutely.
Depending on some of the circumstances, they shouldn't have that on their record because the whole point was you went and paid your dues with the prison sentence. Let's say that you were stealing cars, right? And it wasn't with guns. They were just parked cars and you were stealing them, right? Let's say you stole 100 cars and you go to jail for 10 years. When you come out, you technically shouldn't have like the felony on your record because you paid that. Right. And so you should be able to. So there should be some way that people get stuff taken off.
I feel like, once you complete your, whatever it is, whether you got to do probation or whatever. Yeah. Once you're done with everything, you should get all your rights back. But also, it shouldn't be on your record. However, it should be kept, redacted from the record. But once you commit another crime, it can be unredacted and then held in context for that thing because obviously you went through that entire process and still didn't learn. Here's, whatever. We'll account it there, but it shouldn't be able to get pulled up when you get pulled over. It shouldn't affect, background checks, jobs, any of those things. You should be a free man just like everybody else.
Yeah. Yeah,
it's crazy. It's not like that.
Yeah. What do you think about like 3-strike rules and stuff like that? Or do you know what those are?
Like in what specific context? Just like third time offender, you're done. Like it really just depends, It's up to the judge, and I don't like, all these judges are different, and third strike, some of these judges know each other and they talk or whatever, but the amount of cases that they go through, they're not doing all of that. They just see, oh, this happened with that judge. It's like going to the DMV. Sometimes you just get a bad interaction. They're not there for you. They're trying to get to their lunch break, whatever it is. And it's people's lives, and, they just don't care. So, I don't know. 3 strikes sometimes I think is not a perfect rule. There's context to everything, and
What are your thoughts on having judges being broken down? So like doctors, there's not just general doctors. Like there's general doctors, but then you have like heart surgeon, you have brain surgeon, you have stomach surgeon. Like what if you had that for judges? So it's like if it was car related, there's a judge for that. If it was gun related, it was a judge. So that way the judge specializes in a certain thing, and it's like that judge isn't going to have sway, because what if the judge like is super knowledgeable about like tax, but then the judge is like now ruling on gun stuff.
Right.
It's like they're going to have like, if that judge only focuses on one thing, then it's like you would trust the system way more knowing that, okay, the judge I'm going to is like, regardless if I'm the defendant or, the plaintiff, whatever, it's like going to that judge, okay, that person's there for that reason.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not just a person who's ruling on a bunch of different things.
Do you think most judges are lawyers before they become judges? Is that normally how it works?
I think, you have to get elected to a judge role. So I think, to a beginning, and then I think the other judges vote on who goes to like another step or something. You have to have certification and qualification.
I'm sure you have to have passed the bar.
Yeah, you'd have to understand
or
law.
some sort of other equivalent.
Yeah, I genuinely don't know.
But yeah, that's an interesting question, because I think if it's not that way, that they're just like everybody else, they go to law school, they become a lawyer, they do well, they know enough. That's probably not the path, though. I feel like they probably go to law school, but they probably know they want to be a judge. It's a whole different career path. And so that's really interesting, too, because if that's what's going on, you essentially have these bookworm type people. They're just reading all the law books pretty much just to study for their tests and do all this stuff. But I think they're not retaining all of that information as well as they should. They're not as well versed as they should after the fact, like years down the line. I don't know that they just have all of that information at the ready like they should. And then these lawyers come in, and these lawyers make good points, and they listen to them. But that judge doesn't really know. Sometimes they might have to check something or refer to, other people maybe or something. But I think sometimes they're just winging it a little bit. And if a lawyer can argue well and the other lawyer can't, that's that.
Yeah, because what if you were going to traffic court? Not traffic court. Let's think of an interesting scenario. What if it's what's like a bank robbery? Let's just say bank robbery, right? And there was a car involved. So like, let's say you had 4 judges on the panel, and every single judge on the panel specialized in a certain aspect of that, like of what took place. Then you could have all the judges weighing in on their opinion, and then they all have to come to a consensus. Jeez.
It would definitely be better to have more than one judge, because anybody can just, have a mood swing or have an off day or make a bad decision. And when you're dealing with people, like it
takes a lot off that.
You need a double check.
And it takes a lot off that individual judge too.
Yeah.
Because it's like, if there's 4 judges, then they all get to talk amongst themselves, and it's like, okay, we're making the best decision. And the chances of you having 4 corrupt judges all on the same panel.
However, politics will happen. They'll get catty with each other. You need to make a system where they're not just these 4 always convene together. That's just not going to work. But yeah, they definitely need more accountability, because I think some people probably take stuff out on different people, and they're so detached from all the I don't know, the people that come through the court.
Yeah,
they just don't care.
It'd be an interesting way to get money too, going back to kind of like getting out of the debt. It's on the same topic of like judges and stuff, but what if you could pay to get out of like misdemeanor and undercrime? Like you could just pay a lump sum to be like, these laws don't apply to me.
I feel like that happens.
But in the sense of like just making it fully legal. Like obviously stuff happens under the table, but like if you just out in the open, you just said, hey, you can pay to get rid of this in your life. Like that would be an interesting, but like some absurd amount of money. Mm-hmm. It's like, okay, it's going to be $100 million.
It's tough because it's like when you make a world like that, criminals will thrive. Like the mafia will be back.
But it would be interesting, right? Like just to think about like if you have all these rich people, like just because it would separate class society. Like so
I would love to see society for what it really is. Like just let everybody be how corrupt they are out in the open. Let us see it. And it's like, I don't know.
It's like Batman.
Yeah, it's like a lot of things. I don't even know. I feel like you would just see like, oh, these families, these like right now we just know celebrities as individuals, and that's that. We don't know their family or anything like that. But what if it was like, I don't know, we just really knew every little thing that everybody was doing because they're paying it off and like they're getting away with it. And I don't know, it's entertaining, but probably wouldn't be good for everybody.
But I mean, it'd be interesting because then like you could have a stipulation that says if you're hiring people to do something, then it's voided. Right. So it's like if you like you're like, let's say you're pardoned, right? Like the president pardons you, but then like you use that pardon, but you're still like paying somebody to do crime for you. Right. It's like, let's say that pardon then goes away. I'm not saying the pardon of what we know. I'm saying like this, you're pardoning yourself buying this like immunity, but it's like, if you misuse your immunity, then it goes away.
Right.
Like, so that way it's like, oh, okay, I know that I can use my car and drive 200 miles an hour because I'm not going to get a speeding ticket or whatever it is. Right. But then like I have somebody drive my car, but it's like, oh, well, that was your car. So now you're going to be implicated or something like that, in the sense of like, they have to be super careful because it's them, their personal self. But if they're using their immunity to get ahead or to do stuff that's more preposterous, then they would just get held accountable for it.
I think it's just too much to go through at the end of the day, you know?
Yeah.
Even though it'd be really profitable, actually.
But that was the idea, is like it just the money aspect from it. Yeah. I think they're going to start doing rich people prisons too.
Like what? Like just bougie ones?
No, so like you have Diddy, he's in prison, right? Like all these rich people. I feel like eventually a lot of these super wealthy people are going to end up being implicated and like indicted and stuff like that, just especially with Epstein and whatnot. But I wonder if they're going to make their own prison that's like a bougie resort thing.
Yeah, I bet. I mean, sometimes also, see, here's the thing where we need to get more efficient. Sometimes in the prison or jail system, they can just lose you.
Yeah.
Because their paperwork is just not there. Oh, we don't know what happened here. And then so they might have a record saying that you're at this maximum security, but meanwhile you're at somewhere else. And as long as you're still in captivity and everything, it's all fine. So yeah, what if they made their little bougie prison or whatever? And what if it's just on Epstein Island? It's just like,
yeah, you don't have to tell anybody. Like that's the thing. Like they wouldn't tell anybody. They would just say, oh, this person's in this jail, and then they're not there. And they're at this other jail, but they're still in captivity, so who cares, right? It's like I could easily see them doing something like that.
Yeah. I don't know. I just want more names, man. Like I don't care about Diddy. I don't care about Jay-Z. Like who are the real people that we shouldn't be trusting that we trust right now? Like I don't care about people we already know are bad people. I want to know some new names.
Yeah, I mean, I don't feel like we're going to get them.
You don't think they're going to give like one at some point? Like,
I mean, I think everyone that's important is being assassinated.
Yeah, there's probably like imagine, I mean, not that you should be a hitman, but like if you got one of those jobs, because there's a crunch time on this, they need to get through it before something happens. Like, yeah, that's probably a lot of money. I don't know how much money that is.
Yeah. Speaking of assassinations, everyone stopped talking about that Boeing employee that committed suicide or whatever. Remember they were having like the whistleblower came out and was in like they were in court or whatever, and then just one day he was just dead. He just committed suicide. Do you hear about that?
Oh, I guess. What was he whistleblowing about Boeing?
The safety. It was like they're not safe. Like they're cutting corners, all this stuff. Gotcha. And like he was like testifying in court, and then like one day he was just dead.
Is this like around the time where like something happened with Trump's plane?
It was in 2023.
Okay, yeah,
when this happened,
sounds about right.
But it's,
I remember that a little bit.
It's so crazy to think about, like all these things just get swept under.
Yeah,
and just like they can disappear you, and no one's gonna freaking go looking for you. No one's gonna know.
And what's crazy is like you'll be gone. They won't go looking for you. They won't care. We'll make up something that happened to you. Yeah. But then they could also replace you, and a lot of people will not even notice. And then the people that do notice go, okay.
Yeah, you could easily like. I thought about thinking about this too, because they have disguises in the CIA. Do disguises, so they could literally clone you, kill you, put a mask on somebody else that looks like you. You show up to work and you quit, and then you leave, and then that takes care of that. That person quit, no longer works here, and then they could fake a death further down, a car accident, fell off, whatever, and then all along that person was actually dead for like a while.
Yeah, I bet that happens. Yeah, I think man, what happened with Mitch McConnell? Like every time I see him, he's just worse and worse, and like, I don't even think like he hasn't been seen since he was in the cast yet, has he?
Yeah, he has. He did a press briefing saying he's not rerunning for Senate. So 2026 is when he's up for re-election, so he's not running again. It also makes you start thinking about directed weapon systems towards like mental capacity and stuff like that with a lot of these people, because they change and they look like terrible. I mean, you could even see Joe Biden.
Absolutely.
And I think that was on purpose. I think they were giving him some sort of medicine now, like, or some sort of drug that was making him like an idiot. Because it was like super fast that he like changed from this guy who's just an older grandpa-esque, like, and then he just turned into a walking corpse in like a year and a half. And it was like, what the heck? And now no one's even talking about him. No one knows where he's at. Like, he's at home. Like, he's probably just normal Joe now.
Yeah.
Like,
crazy.
Yeah.
And I wonder how much of that is him being unaware.
Yeah.
How much of that like is him knowing that that's what's going on and he's like leaning into it.
Yeah. That would be interesting too if like that was Obama's plan, was he was like, Joe is an idiot. Let's get him in and then we'll give him this drug that makes him like super non-human and just dead. And then we'll just make all the decisions. Like, that would be interesting too to think. That'd be like super deep, like CIA.
Imagine if Obama didn't get a second term, or he still just had another term that he could run. Like,
what do you mean?
I feel like if he could get into the White House, he'd do it again. Like right now, like next election, he'd be trying to get in, or this last one, he would have been running, or something.
Yeah, I'm glad there's term limits for sure.
Yeah, they were talking about Michelle might run, or a lot of ideas out there at one point.
Yeah, and now that whole thing about him cheating on her got put to bed.
Yeah,
fast, like
faster than the Big Mike situation.
Yeah, dude, that whole thing. I mean, what if that's the whole thing on the Epstein client list, and they just Obama and Big Mike?
It's crazy.
Yeah, it's also something. Okay, along that thought. So I never told you this, but I went on Grok. And I took pictures of my hand, just my hand, with no context, and tried to hide my fingernails, and was like, am I male or female? And it was like, oh, based on what I see, it's this. And I heard recently that and I did it with my son's hand too. And because as a baby, like it's, it'd be like if I showed an arm, could AI detect a photo of an arm, right? If you don't know, like, especially if somebody's a baby. But then I was thinking, AI can detect, I'm pretty sure they can detect if you're male or female based on your eyes. So it's like, imagine if these people, like you've seen like photos of like Chuck Schumer's wife, and you're like, come on, man, that's a dude. Like if you guys don't know, just look up a photo. Like for me, and like if AI can detect, it's like all AI has to do now to see if somebody is like in a disguise or fake or has been impersonating somebody or not. They could just read their eye and be like, oh, this person, like their eye doesn't match what their skin color is supposed to look like, or their height doesn't match with their eye, or something like that. Like that'd be interesting to like see.
I think it's possible.
Yeah, because what if the AI came out and was like, yeah, Michelle Obama's like not a woman, like just because they're trained to just detect fact and detect something. Like, so what if it came out and they were just like, nope. Like that'd be interesting.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like you'd find a lot of people like that though. I forget who it is. Did you see not Nancy Reagan, Barbara Bush? I believe, Barbara Bush has a crazy Adam's apple and like basically looks like Miss Doubtfire.
Oh,
like straight up. But,
yeah. Something else that's going to be interesting too with AI is they're going to be able to see, or it will be able to see real time if someone's lying or not. Because like your face, people like there's things about like, oh, this psychologist is
Yeah.
reading somebody's body language and stuff like that. Like,
But it's like you can read it and detect that at like a 90% success rate. But it's like also you can't use it as concrete evidence. You can't say that's something for sure. There's still that plausible deniability because you could intentionally do that to deceive and like, you know, even though maybe you are lying, or if you weren't lying, you could make it think you're lying probably if you knew how to act like that, do all the signs. And if you knew that psychology, right?
yeah, I guess.
So,
But like the normal person's not going to know that.
and no, for sure. They're going to be able to detect it, but then it's like, you know, prove that. Prove it.
Yeah. That's the other thing that's be interesting about the robots, going back to the robot conversation,
Yeah,
is
I love
robot interrogation. You would not be able to lie to a robot. Like if a robot's like, all right, we're going to be in here for 8 hours, start talking. It will catch you in 30 minutes.
I'm not talking to a robot.
No, but that's what I'm saying.
I'm not
like,
talking to Robo-Cop.
have you, like, there's a video I saw of a interrogator. And he's interrogating this dude that's just lying and he wanted to catch him. So he does this like, there's like some sort of tactic where you try to get him off his train of thought, and the guy went like super fast. Like the interrogator just did it and then just went back to normal face, and the guy just like paused and like lost his train of thought, like because he was like lying a bunch, and then he like couldn't continue because his brain was like, I don't know what like what just happened.
That's a good one.
So imagine a robot just sitting there and just like 8 hours just interrogating you.
I just don't like it. I just don't like it.
You wouldn't be able to lie, dude.
Yeah, well, you know what? Hopefully, I just wouldn't end up in an interrogation room and have to deal with the robot that can tell if I'm lying, because that's bad news.
No, yeah. I'm just saying, like, stuff like that. Like, it'd be hilarious. Like, imagine the detective outside the room just laughing. Just like, good luck. Like,
That's awful. I feel bad for anybody that has to go through that.
I'm not talking about getting beat up by a freaking robot.
But like, no, it's just, I don't know. I feel like there's something human about it's like a game that you really have to psychologically play and win and, you know, and be sharp. And it's like, you just get these AI tools. It's just not fair, man. It's like, okay, well, if they have that, criminals are just going to need to get, you know, not Starlink. What's the other one? Neuralink implants and, you know, get coding on how to not lie and like, you know, outsmart that thing.
That'd be a super funny comedy sketch though.
Yeah.
Like a Key and Peele episode where it's like they sit down, it's like this hardened criminal and there's like a robot and like there's like an interrogator in there, like a human. He's asking him questions. The robot's like, he's lying. Like before he even like answers the question. Like that would be,
no, I'm not, man.
That'd be so funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that'd be funny.
That would be cool.
There's a lot of room too for like comedy with a lot of the stuff that we're seeing nowadays. Like there's a lot of it that's just like,
oh yeah,
it's
dude.
so out
First robot stand up.
Yeah.
That'd be funny probably. Like somebody's gonna write the jokes, obviously.
Because you can, I mean, AI has voices. You can program voices, so you can program them like the inflection of their voice. You can
First
make
of all,
them.
comedians probably hate that. They're like, oh, don't do that.
Oh yeah, they're done. But at the end of the day, too,
mean,
like because with AI, you have to program humor into an AI. But at the end of the day, like all those people, you wouldn't need that,
dude. But okay, so if this thing can detect if you can lie, it can read the room. Imagine the crowd work a robot can do.
Yeah,
that's great. Just so perceptive.
Yeah, because you wouldn't have a robot do like a movie or acting because it takes away the human side of it. But like you could easily, for pure entertainment stuff like that, you could easily have a robot do that.
I don't know. I mean, partially, I think there will always be this elite tier of actors, musicians. Like some people you can just not replace.
Yeah.
We want human people, but like all the trash people that fill up all that, replace all that with robots. It'll get better. We'll vote it out. We can influence it better. But like, yeah, I think the movies and acting, like, yeah, we want the classic actors, but there also comes a point when, you know, they put a real humanistic face on these things. They have real human voices, and they're really compelling on screen to where we forget that they're robots. They're just these androids. And you've already got things like, I don't know what's going on in Asia, but, you know, they've got all sorts of like robot K-pop stars and like, you know, virtual stuff. Like they already have things that don't exist. They're not real people.
Yeah.
And they have cult followings. So, you know, I could see it. It makes sense. It would save so much money, and then we just get used to it and go, you know what? Actually, that was pretty good.
Yeah, probably.
But I don't know. Do you think they would? I don't know. There's almost that aspect of you want like, oh, I loved him in that movie. But if they're just robots, they weren't anybody in that movie. They were just the character.
I think it's going to start happening though with AI. Like forget about robots. There's just going to be a fully animated movie that comes out, and the characters are just fully made up because the AI just creates a character that.
Ooh, imagine an interactive movie that's creating itself in real time.
That'd be insane.
According to responses that the audience is feeding it, and everybody's sort of voting and pushing it and pulling it in a direction, and it ends up. But it's like really smart, so the storylines will still connect no matter, you know. That'd be awesome.
That would be a long movie. It would be. I don't know, because that would be hard because like the amount of processing that AI would have to do in order to change something on a dime.
Well, just imagine like I don't know if you've ever played any of those like those video games that are like real story like I don't know, examples like Detroit Become Human, or I don't know, a bunch of these games where it's like there really could be a movie, but the part where it's a game is you making a decision in a little cutscene where it's like timed. It's like, okay, what do you think? And you're basically having dialogue with people. And so what if like the scenes in the movie, it's like you clearly see a character like, you know, information, and somebody sort of asks them about this information, and then while they're thinking, whatever input gets there before the word is set, it's like that's what's going on, you know? So it wouldn't take extra time. It'd be real easy to vote, and it's like there's perfect opportunities to vote. It's not like you have to watch this thing and then be constantly feeding it. It's just like when this is going, that's, you know, it's pretty immediate.
I definitely think though that like cartoons and stuff is gonna be the first thing where an AI just makes a 12 season. Like imagine how fast it could pump out like a 12 season show. Just like I feel like it would be like maybe 30 days of processing power, and then you don't have to worry about paying actors, and now you have a 12 season show that you just can generate a bunch of money off that you made in 30 days.
Netflix should do that.
Yeah. I mean, also that's the interesting thing too about like documentaries. If you're like wilderness documentaries, you just send out a robot to video a bunch of stuff. Like if you're doing under the water, just have them, and then you don't have any human whatever with that, and then you're able just to pump out stuff all the time. I feel like entertainment's gonna get to like
that would be good for like I know they did drones for like Planet Earth, you know, and that was like amazing because we've never been able to see Earth that way. But it's like you're right, if there was automated all that stuff. Too, going underwater, like underwater drones, is that a thing? It should be. But like basically like your own private submarine drone thing that people could explore the sea with, and then making a fleet of those and automating them for discovery.
Yeah.
Because people still don't know what's down there, which is crazy. We talk about it all the time.
So that's the one thing I don't understand. I feel like underwater is so much simpler than above air, because you don't have to deal with like gravity in the sense of like if you get a drone, like a robot, like swimmer thing, you could create a bunch of those a lot faster than you could create like, or like, how do I explain this? Let's say that you had to do a bunch of drones and you wanted to film like the top of the world or whatever. I feel like you wouldn't be able to do it as well because of air traffic, space, and like there's a lot more going up in the sky. Whereas underwater, nothing's going on. So you could just create 1 million underwater drones and let them do their thing, and you don't have to worry about them because they're out of the way of everything, and then they're just doing their own normal thing. Like I'm surprised we don't have more discoveries or mapping or stuff of underwater.
Yeah, we don't hear about this stuff at all, and maybe it just doesn't make headlines. But yeah, you would really think like everybody always says there's we don't know what's down there. Like, are people just not getting funded to do that type of stuff, you think?
Yeah, I don't think there's funding, but if you have funding like Tesla, like how much would it cost to make a 3 foot by 3 foot drone, underwater drone that can go down in the water and look around, because you're not worried about people down there dying if it explodes or whatever from the pressure. Like all you have to do is have 1,000 of them and they go down and they just research and they're constantly sending feedback.
I mean, I could be wrong, but also the smaller this thing is, the better it will do in the depths. So the smaller it is, the more that you can have as well. So yeah, you could have a bunch and map it out.
You can do thermal technology down there. You can do
Right.
infrared. Like you could do so much stuff down there. And then all you have is you have these beacons in the water and they're just sending their information to those beacon like cloud things. And then that's just getting sent back up. So it's not like they have to store a bunch of information on these and then have to come back up to the surface. You just have them in the water indefinitely.
Yeah.
Like the technology is 100% there to do that. And I'm surprised you like, especially Tesla, like Elon's companies, like the amount of money they have, I'm surprised they don't just make something like that just for the hell of it.
Well, I wonder if like, I mean, space is obviously a bigger priority to him, but yeah, I wonder if there's just not much down there or like of interest, or we just don't think it's worth it. You know, like I guess what would it benefit us to know all of that? It's just cool.
Yeah. I'm just saying for the sake of exploration, because people always say, oh, we haven't even explored the whole ocean, right? It's like, it'd be so much cheaper to get the answers, just science in general, like because they're looking for new biology, new habitats, like all this stuff like down there that could explain something or something.
Apparently, they did find a new bioluminescent fish down there. I heard. Grok told me that.
Super important.
Yeah.
But I mean, I just think like for how cheap it would be compared to trying to go to space or do other stuff, I feel like he would, with how much Elon has, I feel like that wouldn't be too crazy to be able just to have. I mean, you could just start with sections, like forget about the whole world for a second, but like if he was just doing the Gulf of Mexico and he had
America.
Yeah, sorry.
America.
Gulf of America. Imagine if he had 1,000 drone fleet that he just sent down there and he was like, all right, they're going to gather information for a year straight. And then we're going to report back what we have just because he can.
It probably wouldn't take that long to map the whole, like,
That's what I'm saying. Like with 1,000 of them, it wouldn't take that long if they're doing 24/7 operation. And because that system is obviously going to get hot and running, you're in the water. So it's like an automatic cooling system. So you don't have to worry about like overheating or whatever, right? Like I feel like you'd be able to do that fairly easy.
Okay, slightly off topic, but it just reminds me of that. Because they're essentially just a fleet of drones. Did you ever see that, what's his name? Terrence Howard on Joe Rogan?
Mm-mm.
I mean, people had a lot to say about that one because he had some interesting ideas. But one of the things that's like the most viable to the most people out of what he put out there on Rogan was this fleet of drones that are aerial drones, but like the shape of them, it's sort of like if you had like, I'm going to butcher what it is exactly, but if you had like a hexagon, you know, with the fan in it spinning, and you took 3 of those hexagons and just linked them up into this like, you know, I don't know, just 3 of them sticking out from each other like a triangle sort of. It's like this linchpin system. But basically the way that these things could fly, once they connect like that, they can now rotate each other in midair. So these things can hover. But then you take those and they can all combine in as many of them as you need or as little of them as you want. So basically, if you had a super heavy object that needed lifted all the way across the world, you could just get a bunch of these. They all connect together, lift this thing up, coordinate it. But it's these swarms of robots.
That'd be interesting.
It's really cool. It's a cool idea. Some people have issues with the math or the science of how it all works. But, I mean, whether he has the exact model of how that works or not, like that's totally a possible thing. Yeah. And I think it's only a matter of time. I think Bezos should do that because I know he has the Amazon drones and all this type of stuff. Like, I think he could pioneer that space if he wanted to. That'd be a good one for him.
Yeah, that'd be very interesting too. I mean, let alone like drones are hard too because drones fly based on pushing down, right? So there's like they're pushing down on something to lift them up. So I wonder if they'd be able to do something with drones where you can just get drones in space, like get them up to a certain point and then have them use some sort of propellant technology.
They're gonna need something else up there.
Yeah, but that'd be interesting to like if you can get them like even that high.
Yeah, that is. Yeah, imagine. forget going to space. Go to space in your little VR headset from home.
Yeah.
Virtual reality.
That'd be crazy.
It would be awesome. And I mean, much more cost effective than going in person, I would assume.
Yeah. Yeah. I also am interested to see how, or not see, because we will never see, but like the government, you know, like Spy Kids used to be a movie.
I think it still is.
Well, you know what I'm saying. It used to be popular. And there was like the fly, right? So it's like you had a little fly that would be like a drone. I wonder if they have that, or like how small they have.
You know, there's all those conspiracies about the birds being drones and stuff like that. Yeah, I've always kind of wondered. And you know what? Occasionally, like, I mean, it's probably just me being paranoid, but man, sometimes you'll just have a weird encounter with a bug that's not supposed to be there. And you just look at it like, I know. I know you're watching me. No, I had like a hornet one time that was just like, should not have been where it was. And it's like, I don't know.
Yeah, that'd be interesting though to see if there was something like that.
Yeah.
Where they have been. I mean, because then you can plant something that moves, and it's like.
I honestly think it's probably already a thing. I think a common house fly is the thing. I think not all birds. It's not like birds don't exist in their fabrication, but I think some birds, you know, sometimes, yeah, like maybe a different type of insect that's like, because the thing is, to me, it's like, it's not about it, oh, that's a hornet, whatever. It's like, sometimes a bug is just not acting how it's supposed to, or it's like, and you normally wouldn't notice it, but you just happen to notice it, and you keep watching, and you go, nah, right? You just don't believe it. It's not viable. The flies are small. They can only do so much, right? Like that, you can only hold so much technology in that thing. They might not be able to monitor as well as a bigger bug. So,
that's true.
You know what I mean? Like sometimes, yeah, it might be a house fly. Maybe it's something bigger. Maybe it's a whole bird or something like that. But maybe it's even smaller than a house fly, or, you know, something. And honestly, they don't even need it because of the technology. But
yeah, but it's just an interesting thought,
an extra thing as well.
Yeah,
I don't know.
There's so much area of technology that just could be achieved now based on what we see. I mean, microphones are tiny, cameras are tiny. I mean, you can see it just with like the stories you hear of people putting cameras in shower heads because they're trying to like stuff like that. Like, we already know the technology exists to get stuff super small now.
We'll just look at like storage devices. Like, you know, everybody has like terabytes of storage on their computer, you know, and I don't even know what they started with, like how little the first computer's memory was, but it was tiny. And we just start to, now that we have the technology, especially AI, we're piecing everything together. Stuff gets more advanced and smaller. We're able to pack more of it in there. Like at a certain point, everything is possible. Yeah. You know? And that's kind of the beauty of being human. I think like we're super good at that, like innovating and coming up with a new strategy for things, but we just get in our own way. And so that's like why right now we need to get out of our own way and just start doing stuff. Because like, honestly, besides like the internet, what other advancements have happened since like the 80s?
I think it's just cars and the internet. Honestly, there hasn't really been, I mean, farming kind of the same, guns the same. I mean, everything, if you think about it, like self-checkout is like the only other thing that I can think of. Like there's not that one thing that's like you said, there's not a whole bunch of things at once that are just improving.
But it used to be that way, where it was like
everything, like,
you know, we learned this new study, a whole new, you know, and then that would be explored. And it's like we live in this era where we feel like we've done everything, we learned everything. There's no need to look into anything. That's how most people think, which is kind of disgusting because, like, learn, share something. I don't know. Yeah.
But then the profits. I mean, everything's backed by money. I mean, because you've heard the story of the guy who invented the steam-powered engine, you know, in like his backyard. Like he created an engine based off of steam. And he died and it all disappeared. It's like there's the technology's there for so much stuff, but it becomes money.
And then there's the people, like there's this one dude, I want to say he's in Africa, that, you know, he builds, like he does plastiline, which is like he makes gasoline from plastic.
Yeah, I saw that video.
And then some other dude in Africa made a car. I think that was water powered, right?
Yeah.
And there's some other guy I don't know where he's at, some white guy that also made a car powered by water. And they're like out there on the internet, still living, nothing's happening to them. PSYOP. Straight up PSYOP. They want you to think, oh, somebody figured it out, cool.
Yeah.
Not worry about it. It's like if we understood, like science is crazy. Like unless you're a legitimate scientist, you don't know anything about science. And even them, I would say they just say what science is. You know, they don't know everything. But yeah, people just don't question that stuff. They don't evaluate anything. And I don't know, it's interesting. But if people really would just look into like how things work on small scales, on big scales, like what's going on here, like breaking things down instead of having the explanation of that's how that works. Like that's how everybody operates. But yeah, I don't know. We need some more free thinkers.
Yeah, I think one of the reasons also before we wrap up that water would totally destroy like the energy, like or like the vehicle manufacturing industry, just because it's like you don't have to worry about, or not vehicle, but the fuel, right? Like the fuel in the sense of like there's water in the air. Like you can create condensation by heat and stuff. So it's like imagine being able to refuel while driving.
Yeah, that's crazy. I mean, it's possible, but we almost come to that point where like, you know, perpetual motion machine like can't exist. Like you might be able to refuel a little bit, like how you could, I don't know, solar charge something while you're using it, but I don't think you'll be able to get equal exchange where like you don't have to fill up with water. Yeah. You know, you at least have to jumpstart it, but it would probably be super fuel efficient, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It seems entirely possible.
What if because planes are up in the clouds and they're going through clouds and stuff, and they're like a hybrid. So it's like it runs off fuel and water.
That's a really good idea, actually. See, there's a lot of good ideas, and they're just nobody's working on this stuff. It's so obvious too. You know?
That's there's so much opportunity and like, anyway, so
people will get to it. I think we'll eventually we'll figure some stuff out.
Yeah,
but yeah, probably a good place to end it. If you haven't seen our previous episodes, go check them out now. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.